While you sleep, the foundations of your world are being rewritten in code and shadow. The world isn't changing. It's being dismantled right before your eyes. Two superpowers, one planet, the People's Republic of China and the United States aren't just competing. They're reshaping everything from technology to global economics, social credit systems, mass surveillance networks, advanced weapons development, digital monitoring dressed as convenience. What you're about to discover comes from verified reports, leaked documents, and data both nations rarely discuss publicly. Subscribe and support Dark Decoded X to deep investigations every week. Share where you're watching from in the comments. Seeing our growing community from around the world always brings me purpose. Now let the investigation begin. Welcome to Dark Decoded X. This isn't propaganda, this isn't cheerleading, this is the raw comparison nobody wants you to see. China and the United States, two civilizations, two ideologies, both convinced they're humanity's future. One built on collective control, the other on corporate freedom. But strip away the flags and anthems and you'll find the same patterns: surveillance, debt, incarceration, and weapons that make extinction possible. Today, we decode the lethal realities hiding behind the world's most powerful rivalry. Buckle up. Number 10. Population, the human inventory. One has too many people, the other can't make enough. China, 1.4 billion people live mostly in coastal megacities, while vast rural regions depopulate. The total fertility rate has plunged to around 1.0 to 1.1 children per woman, far below the replacement level of 2.1. The aging crisis is accelerating. By 2025. Over 280 million people will be over 60, putting immense strain on pensions, healthcare, and social services. The legacy of the one-child policy and decades of population control still haunts demographics, leaving a rapidly shrinking workforce behind. United States population sits around 340 million, but the fertility rate has dropped to roughly 1.6 children per woman. Immigration partially offsets the decline, yet border conflicts and anti-immigration policies fuel social tension. While America has space to grow, the cultural divide and political gridlock threatens sustainable population management. Both nations face a critical challenge. China with too many elders and too few workers, the U.S. with not enough young people to replace an aging population. Their demographic futures shape economics, innovation, and global influence alike. Which collapse comes first? Too many elders or too few workers? Number 9. Education system. Factories of obedience. One teaches conformity, the other sells degrees and debt. China. Each year, roughly 10 million students face the Gaokao, a single exam that can determine their entire academic and professional future. Schools prioritize memorization over creativity, and party loyalty is woven into the curriculum from an early age. Suicide prevention measures, including nets and counseling, are in place due to immense pressure. Despite authoritarian control, literacy rates exceed 96%, achieved through rigorous state-driven systems. Success is defined narrowly: obedience, performance, and compliance. United States graduates face over $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, limiting financial freedom for decades. Public schools emphasize standardized testing, often at the expense of critical thinking, creativity, or civic education. Literacy rates hover around 88%, lower than China despite far greater wealth. College tuition has risen over 400% since 1980, making higher education both aspirational and financially crippling. One system molds obedient citizens, the other creates indebted participants. Both funnel millions into structures that exploit them, leaving independent thought as optional or illusory. Is freedom of thought even taught anymore? Or just the illusion of choice between two cages? Number 8. Health and well-being. Survival of the richest. One denies health care exists. The other makes you pay to live. China. Life expectancy stands at approximately 78.2 years. A universal healthcare system officially covers over 95% of the population. But stark disparities persist between rural and urban areas. Air pollution contributes to roughly 1.4 million premature deaths annually. Strict COVID-19 lockdowns in cities like Shanghai caused widespread trauma. disrupted access to essential services and left vulnerable populations struggling to survive. Access is technically universal, but quality and availability are uneven. United States life expectancy is around 76.4 years, lower than China, despite spending $4.5 trillion annually on healthcare. About 30 million people remain uninsured, and medical expenses are the leading cause of personal bankruptcy, affecting roughly 66% of cases. Crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe have become de facto healthcare support. The opioid crisis killed more than 100,000 Americans in 2023 alone, and mental health services remain fragmented and underfunded. One system controls health through the state, the other controls it through cost. Both leave ordinary people vulnerable. When survival costs everything, are you living or just avoiding death? Number 7. Law and justice. Cages everywhere. One disappears. You quietly, the other locks you up loudly. China. Official prison statistics report around 1.7 million incarcerated. But opaque practices like residential surveillance at a designated location mean the true numbers are far higher. Courts convict 99.9% of defendants, turning trials into procedural theater. Over 1 million Uyghurs remain in detention camps without formal charges, and executions, estimated in the thousands annually, are shrouded in secrecy. International investigations suggest coerced organ harvesting from prisoners, highlighting extreme abuses hidden behind legal facades. United States, 2.3 million people are behind bars, the highest total in the world despite representing only 4% of the global population. The cash bail system keeps the poor jailed pre-trial. Private prisons profit from incarceration, creating incentives for longer sentences. The death penalty remains legal in 27 states, and systemic racial disparities mean minorities are incarcerated disproportionately. Juvenile detention, probation violations, and technical arrests further expand the cage. Both nations maintain control through imprisonment. One hides its brutality behind secrecy and opaque legal processes. The other enforces it openly, normalized and codified. Minorities and marginalized communities bear the brunt of both systems. If both systems cage their people, does the cage's color really matter? Number 6, human rights. The freedom you're allowed. One censors openly, the other pretends you're free. China, freedom of speech is virtually non-existent. The Great Firewall blocks access to information, while over 70,000 keywords are censored online. Journalists, lawyers, and activists face imprisonment for reporting facts. Forced labor persists in Xinjiang alongside religious persecution targeting Uyghur Muslims, Christians, and Falun Gong practitioners. The social credit system rewards compliance and punishes dissent, making surveillance and control part of daily life. United States. Free speech exists legally, but often falters when it challenges corporate or state power. Edward Snowden lives in exile for revealing mass surveillance. Julian Assange faced imprisonment for publishing classified documents. Police brutality claims over 1,000 lives annually, and mass shootings are a grim weekly reality. Guantanamo Bay still holds detainees indefinitely without trial, while many Native American reservations endure systemic neglect and land disputes. Corporations monitor citizens digitally, and social inequities persist. One system enforces obedience openly. The other maintains the illusion of freedom while monitoring, exploiting, and controlling behind the scenes. Both raise the same question for their citizens. Which is worse, knowing you're controlled or believing you're not? The evidence gets more concerning. Subscribe, hit that bell, and share this investigation. Stay informed. Number 5. Infrastructure. Building empires or monuments to debt. One builds too fast, the other struggles to build at all. China boasts over 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail, the world's largest network. Megacities like Ordos were designed for millions but remain largely underpopulated. The $1 trillion Belt and Road Initiative funds infrastructure in over 150 countries, often creating debt traps disguised as development. Occasional bridge collapses and construction failures expose underlying corruption and rushed projects. The United States faces decades of neglected infrastructure, The American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, gave U.S. infrastructure a C- in 2023. Nearly 43% of roads are rated in poor or mediocre condition. Trains often run slower than in the 1960s, and cities like Flint still struggle with lead-contaminated pipes. The U.S. needs roughly $2.5 trillion just to repair existing systems, spending about 6% of GDP on infrastructure compared to China's 8%. One nation builds too much, too fast, risking waste and corruption. The other crumbles, burdened by bureaucracy and underinvestment. Both systems leave citizens paying the price while billions are squandered on flawed projects. What good is an empire if the roads leading to it are falling apart? Number 4. Politics. The theater of power, one party forever, two parties that rarely threaten power. China has been ruled by a single party since 1949. The Communist Party controls the state, the courts, the military, and the media. In 2018, term limits were removed, allowing Xi Jinping to rule indefinitely. Competitive national elections do not exist. Political dissent is heavily restricted. Party membership, nearly 100 million strong, strongly shapes access to power and opportunity in a nation of 1.4 billion. The United States calls itself a democracy, yet power is concentrated within two dominant parties heavily influenced by corporate and billionaire funding. The Citizens United ruling opened the door to unlimited political spending, allowing money to shape elections at unprecedented scale. Gerrymandering distorts representation, often protecting incumbents and reducing voter impact. The 2020 election exposed deep institutional fragility, culminating in the most serious democratic crisis in generations. Congressional approval regularly hovers near historic lows. Both systems elevate elites faster than ordinary citizens. One governs openly through control, the other governs through influence, complexity, and finance. Different methods. Similar distance from the people they claim to serve. If your participation never threatens power, is it really power at all? Number 3. Economics. Empires built on exploitation. One lends money to trap you, the other prints money to control you. China now produces roughly $18.8 trillion in GDP, making it the world's second largest economy. It is the manufacturing backbone of the planet, exporting over $3.4 trillion in goods each year. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing finances infrastructure across dozens of countries, tying ports, roads, and railways to long-term Chinese loans and influence. China still holds around $780 to $860 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds, even as it gradually reduces exposure. Income per capita stands near $13,000, rising steadily but unevenly. The yuan remains tightly managed, helping keep exports competitive and global supply chains dependent on mainland China. The United States leads the world with roughly $29 trillion in GDP, but carries more than $34 trillion in national debt. The U.S. dollar still dominates global finance, accounting for nearly 60% of global foreign exchange reserves, giving Washington unmatched leverage through sanctions and financial controls. America imports over $4 trillion annually while exporting just over $3 trillion, sustaining a chronic trade deficit. Income per capita exceeds $75,000, yet household surveys show tens of millions of Americans lack emergency savings for basic shocks. One system builds infrastructure to secure influence. The other controls the currency the world must use. Both generate immense wealth. Yet in both, elites rise faster than the people beneath them. When power shifts through debt instead of armies, the question isn't who wins, but whoever gets free. Number 2. Digitalization, the invisible prison. One watches through government, the other through your phone. The People's Republic of China operates one of the most extensive digital surveillance systems ever built. Estimates place over 550 million cameras nationwide, roughly one for every 3 citizens. Platforms like WeChat serve over 1.3 billion users and are legally required to share data with authorities. Tens of thousands of search terms are filtered. Unauthorized VPNs are restricted. Social credit programs, fragmented and local, can penalize behaviors like traffic violations while rewarding compliance. Facial recognition is embedded across transport, housing, and policing. Researchers estimate hundreds of thousands to over 1 million people work directly or indirectly in content control and censorship. The United States rejects centralized surveillance, yet achieves mass data collection through corporations. Google processes nearly 9 billion searches daily, all logged. Meta's platforms reach over 3.2 billion users worldwide. Documents leaked by Edward Snowden confirmed the NSA conducts large-scale data collection through programs like PRISM. Law enforcement agencies routinely purchase location and behavioral data from brokers without warrants. Smart devices record voices, movements, and habits, packaged as convenience. Both nations collect vast amounts of personal data, one through state mandate, the other through market design. Different systems, similar visibility. If your life is transparent either way, does it matter who owns the mirror? Number 1. Weaponization. The race to extinction. One builds missiles you can't easily stop. The other builds systems that react faster than humans. Mainland China possesses over 400 nuclear warheads, according to SIPRI, with projections suggesting up to 1,000 by 2030. New missile fields, rapid silo construction, and the deployment of the DF-41 intercontinental ballistic missile allow potential strikes on the continental United States within roughly 30 minutes. China has tested hypersonic glide vehicles capable of maneuvering at extreme speeds, complicating missile defense. In 2021, a Chinese system partially orbited the Earth before re-entering, an experiment U.S. officials called deeply destabilizing. The United States maintains the world's largest nuclear stockpile, with over 5,000 total warheads, including roughly 1,700 deployed. Its defense budget approaches $880 billion annually, exceeding that of nearly every other nation combined. The U.S. leads in autonomous systems. AI-assisted targeting, drone swarms, and loitering munitions increasingly shape modern warfare, while official policy requires human authorization for lethal force. Reaction times are shrinking as systems accelerate beyond human decision speed. Both nations are building weapons designed to act faster than diplomacy, faster than debate, and sometimes faster than conscience. Nuclear command systems rely on early warning algorithms and compressed timelines where hesitation can mean annihilation. When machines are built to respond in seconds, how much humanity can remain in the decision to end the world? If this investigation opened your eyes, like, subscribe, hit that bell, share widely, and watch the next documentaries pinned on the end screen. Two superpowers pursuing different strategies toward similar goals: global influence and security through strength. Neither China nor the United States holds clear moral authority. Both make trade-offs between security and freedom, control and transparency. The real question isn't which system is superior, but what global order emerges from this competition.